So there are 5 different levels of understanding in spiral dynamics, and we sometimes refer to them as the myth, metaphor, model, theory, and research levels of understanding. At the myth level of understanding, many people tend to look at this model as a stairway to enlightenment. Some of them often refer to it as the theory that explains everything. As we said earlier, we'd look at different ways of understanding spiral dynamics. And we often discuss 5 different levels of understanding. And the way we understand this model actually determines how effective we'll be in applying it successfully. One of the most shallow, simple ways of understanding this model is at the myth level. And at the myth level, you'll hear things like, this is a theory that explains everything. Or you'll hear that this is the stairway to enlightenment and all good people will be second here. And when we come to solutions at the myth level of understanding, they tend to be faulty. They tend to be Band-Aid level solutions. Then at the metaphor level, you'll hear people discuss others as though they are types. It's a classification system. It's a way where they build categories and holes so that people can be stuffed into them and easily managed and understood. So somebody might say something like, well, Susan is really well organized, therefore she's a blue. John's a business person, therefore he must be orange. Mary wears Birkenstocks, of course she's a green. And Alan is absolutely brilliant, so of course he gets top of the spiral, he's yellow. Well, it's a very simplistic way to represent this model. And when you're looking at solutions from the myth and metaphor level, which are the ways that 99% of the people who understand spiral dynamics understand it, then you're still not looking at a sufficient level of understanding to get sound applications. This is the level of understanding that guarantees that at some point, when your application fails, you're not going to understand why it fails. Although these are ways to begin to get interested in spiral dynamics, they're really not enough. You see, because when we're looking at problems, we're looking at issues that we're trying to solve, or we're trying to help a client with a particular issue. And it might be a very thorny issue. It might be a very wicked problem. We'll turn around and say, here's the key. This is the simple solution. And maybe if you're drowning, somebody will come along and say, well, you should have learned to swim. And that's not very helpful. And at the myth-metaphor level, that's about all they can do. We're looking at bandage solutions with very little understanding of what the actual problem is about. So we've got to go deeper. What you want to remember is that spiral dynamics is a model of Graves's model. It's a simplification and a popularization of his view of adult psychosocial development. Spiral dynamics has made his view accessible to many people, and we feel it's important to go even deeper than that. What we do in our programs is to help you to build a solid foundation of understanding. You'll learn about what spiral dynamics is, what Graves's model is about, where they overlap, where they differ, their strengths, and their weaknesses. And as we begin to drive deeper into the theory, what you'll begin to do is begin to understand problems in new ways. And you'll begin to understand how to analyze what's going on much more effectively. See, great applications depend on in-depth understanding of the problem through the analysis all the way to the solution. And a solution that not only matches the problem, but a solution that doesn't result in blowback or negative long-term consequences as a result of short-sighted implementation. So let's look at the theory and research parts. When Clare Graves began his research in the 1950s, he was looking at what maturity was about. He was looking at the different conflicts between psychologists about what human nature was about. And he began gathering data. And as a result of his research and the data he gathered, he had to explain what that data meant. From that research and that need to explain it, he built a theory, the levels of human existence theory. So only when that theory made sense in terms of the data did he build a model. So when we work on understanding spiral dynamics, we actually have to work on understanding the Graves approach at a much deeper level, because only then are we able to effectively analyze what's going on in a particular situation and to begin to create solutions that might match those problems. So what that means? Solid foundation in the theory. And we pay particular attention to making this useful. We draw on cases, we draw on examples, we draw on our own case studies, we draw on stories. So you're going to experience a number of different approaches to understanding these different levels that are all geared and designed to help you understand it in a way where you're going to be able to apply it. So this model is for individuals, it's for groups, it's for corporations, and it's also for cultures. And often we say this model only applies to those areas where human nature is a factor. But any time we work with the model, we have to understand its strengths, its weaknesses, where it needs to be applied, and we explore those in our training program. So, what is spiral dynamics? Well, there are many different answers to this, probably as many different answers as there are people who've been exposed to spiral dynamics. Let's go from the very simple to the more conceptual. Spiral Dynamics itself is a title of a book, Spiral Dynamics Mastering Values, Leadership, and Change. It's also a domain name. It's the title of our website. It's the title of our training. Spiral Dynamics is also a brand and a trademark of the National Values Center. What that means is there's a promise to you from us of a certain level of quality, content, and experience that will provide you with what you need to begin applying this model to your work and your life from the moment you leave the program. So we said Spiral Dynamics is a simplification and popularization of the work of Clare Graves. But what a lot of people don't realize is it's an application, and it's an application that describes how memes, these are ideas, artifacts, things that people talk about, are spread and copied. So it discusses how these memes are conceptualized. And more on that in just a moment. Spiral dynamics is also a way of thinking. Each of these different color bands describes a way of thinking, different states, stages, memes that attach, and we've also referred to them as V-memes. And remember, it's based in Dr. Clare W. Graves's emergent cyclical double helix model of adult biopsychosocial systems of development. So it takes into account the biology, the psychology, the sociology, the way that people organize, and the general systems within which we all live. So each of these levels of existence, coping systems, each of these colored bands refers to one of Graves's levels of human existence. Well, what is that? Well, this is how spiral dynamics can help you. It can help you, your clients, colleagues, family, and friends, because it'll help you to understand how they're thinking, why they do what they do, why you're doing what you're doing, and how they see the world. You see,